firstly, the earlier that retailers can test and research, the better. So really the problem of not getting that insight early enough is committing to a certain path, and the cost of changing direction is enormous.
Yeah.
So by getting in there and doing research early, it's mission critical. So if it's a case of saying, I can only test at one stage, test as early as you possibly can. SEO and usability really need to work in tandem. SEO and SEM is trying to draw customers to the site, and SEO needs to close them. Usability needs to close them.
Yeah.
So they really need to work together, and really engaging SEO a little bit earlier in the process is important too.
Okay.
So we work with other companies that provide SEO and SEM services, and we really like to try and engage them as early as possible in the development cycle, so that we can look at structuring IA that both is customer centric, but is also incorporates keywords that are highly searched, for example, so that we're maximising both opportunities in that sense. We develop IA by actually getting customers together and starting with card sorting techniques, which is a process of having individual pieces of content on index cards and getting customers to group those cards into logical categories that make sense to them, and actually getting them to label those categories with post-it notes. And then, based on a series of these sorts, we'll actually run statistical analysis on that to look for what we call thematic card agreement. So if there's certain themes that come out in the way people have sorted and grouped cards, it gives us certain strength for grouping of content.
Okay.
So we use that as a basis to start to come up with a draft IA, or information architecture. And then the next step beyond that is to actually verify that information architecture with users again. So we'll get them to carry out tasks by stepping through the IA and seeing how successful they are at cutting what we would deem as being the correct path. And the research that we do really branches off to the total customer experience. We're not just looking at their experience once they hit the site, and when they leave the site we don't care. It's how do we bring them to the website. So, we've done some work recently with retail clients such as Dotty on looking at their social media strategies and how they can engage with the various tiers of their target audience groups, whether that be young teenagers, some 15 to 17-year-olds versus 18 to 19-year-olds will have very, very different needs and will interact with social media in different ways. So how do we optimise that execution in terms of providing that customer insight research to do things such as that? Mobile for retail is becoming increasingly important, and to make sure that we're testing and optimising interfaces for mobile devices is really critical. And we had an interesting study with ANZ recently when we were looking at doing some work on their online banking site, their mobile banking site. And the work was so successful that what they actually found after the fact is that a lot of customers were actually using the mobile interface from their desktop as opposed to even their mobile phone, because it was just so simple and intuitive that it was a fantastic tool to use. So it starts to permeate other ways in which clients are looking at their interfaces to say, well, we've optimised our mobile interface, and what learnings can we take to other products and services that we offer. I guess it's really about optimising the display for those small screens. So it doesn't mean that you can't display things, it just means that you've got to be creative in the way that you do display product. So making sure that it's not too cluttered, that people can still interact with product displays and rotate images and look at new products. Making sure that the images aren't too large, so that it doesn't take too long to download as well, because if you're on a 3G network, it's not a broadband connection, so it's going to take a little bit longer to download those images. So that's important as well. And again, looking at the way in which people are interacting with the device, that they're not going to have the tactile. They've got obviously using their hands on a touchscreen display is different to a keyboard. So making them go through a really long sales funnel where you're asking them too much information is going to result in a lot of dropouts. So it's simplifying that process and stripping it back. That tends to be the trend.